make it from the resume pile to actually getting that interview. I'll talk about that here and give you some tips. Hi, I'm Dr. Cherokee. This video is really going to be centered around finding and getting interviews for remote pharmacy jobs, specifically for managed care pharmacy, but I'm sure it can be extrapolated to other areas. Number one, you gotta beef up your resume. So in pharmacy school and when you were, in residency and stuff like that, I'm sure, everyone wanted to know about all the clubs you joined. They wanted to know about all the community service and the things that you were doing extracurricular wise. When it comes to your job or looking for pharmacy jobs actually in the field, nobody cares about that anymore. If this was a big piece of your pharmacy school story, for sure, put that on there. But for a lot of, especially managed care and things like that, we don't need to know, that you were treasurer, I don't know, just beef up your resume. Put on there your licenses. If you have other certificates, like you had to get it for immunizations, if you had to do a diabetes certificate or you're CPR certified, that kind of stuff. If you know any languages, put that on there. But if you know how to use different medical systems, or if you worked in some of the retail settings and you've played with a different system, you have other licenses in different states, put that on your resume. So anything else that you want to, that's works for the job, so managed care related and or if you're going for another thing, but just beef up your resume. Put the important stuff on the top, where you went to school, what kind of trainings you did, and then go into those other stuff that I mentioned and highlight those. That's what employers actually want to see, and that's what will help to get your resume, your application from the pile to the granting them an interview part. Another thing that will help to beef up your resume is using that letter of intent space. Now, if you look at this other video that I did about how to get my residency interviews, because I applied for 6 different residencies and I got interviews to all of them. One of the things that really helped to push me across the radar when they have tons and tons of applications is my letter of intent. I made it very tailored to the specific job. It wasn't a generic piece. I kind of made it some narrative in there. I had some grabbers, because if you think about it, these people that are looking through these piles, they see, I would very much like to come to your position of employment. They see that. So get their attention, do something a little different, talk about something else, give a story. So those kind of things help with my letter of intent, and I can talk, you can go to that video to see kind of the things I did to get interviews in that way. And I can also, if you have a question about it, I can talk more about that. But that's a second thing that you can do to take your application from the pile to actually getting the interview. The other thing would be, especially in a space like managed care, is to use your network. Now, you need to pull on all of the things that you've been doing during pharmacy school. Know the upperclassmen, know the teachers, make sure you're talking to people, make sure people know your name, make sure you're on LinkedIn and you're actually adding your classmates. But this is the part where you pull on those people that were upperclassmen that have graduated before you, where are they now? Kind of look to see where they are. If they're at a company that you're interested in, hey, how do you like your company? Are there any openings? If I apply, would it be okay if I put your name on the application? A lot of times when you do that, if you get hired from a recommendation from someone in that company they get some kind of bonus from that. So as long as you're a good worker and they're not putting the company at jeopardy by recommending you, that's usually a good place to start when you're looking for getting that. But also, it's another way to get your application off the pile. I remember when people, now it's just to get the interview. I can't say that's to get the job, because when I was in my MTM department, I had a lot of friends that wanted to get in, and my supervisor, who I had a good rapport with in my MTM position, she would straight up ask me, hey, do you have any friends or know anybody that has applied? Tell me their names so I can take their resume and put it at the top. And those are the people that got interviews. So definitely use your network, especially in a space where there's 100 applicants per job opening. So those are things that you can kind of do now. But I like to talk to you about some bonus, how to get interviews at these jobs, because these might be a little more time consuming, but honestly, it'll probably save you a lot of heartache and a lot of headache. And one of those would be get more licenses. So a lot of the managed care jobs, once you get it, they kind of look for or give incentives to getting more licenses. Just because of different requirements and laws, there are some kinds of cases or things that you will work on in managed care where it has to be worked by a pharmacist that has a license in that state. And I wrote some down so that you kind of have an idea. California, Georgia, Illinois, Orlando, Oregon, Tennessee, Hawaii, Nebraska, and West Virginia. Those are some of the licenses that at least I know in my company where there's incentives to get licenses in those states. But I'm telling you that if you have it on your resume already when you're applying, they're gonna see, whoa, this is gonna do us a lot of good in, you know, that saying, kill a few birds with one stone. So that's definitely something that can intrigue the employer to get you the interview. Another thing that will take a while and is a little more work would be do a residency. Now, I know that managed care, you know, some of the things that you do, MTM, you can do PA, you can be on the formulary team. There's a lot of different things you can do in managed care, and you can look at the video about different types of jobs in managed care that I have. But honestly, even though the work itself is, you can learn it on the job, to get the interview, a lot of jobs are looking for a 1-year residency experience and or 3 years of clinical something else. And that's just what it is. I got this job initially. I didn't do a managed care residency. I did a community residency, but it still met the requirement of residency so that I could get the interview wow the interviewers and get my job. So that's just something to think about. And then you can also think, if you do a managed care residency, a lot of times you can stay on. There have been different classes of residents here in my company, and they have they've been retained with the company. That was their end to the company, being a resident. And so that's always a great place to go to start when you're trying to get the interview. It's a necessary evil, unfortunately. And the last thing I'd say, or some kind of things I'd say is, you know, be open to different hours. I mean, there's a big push, especially, I'm in the East Coast, I'm in Tampa, Florida, but there's a big push for being able to reach people in all the states. So my job is remote, so we are hiring people in all states and zip codes, but the West Coast and the Central is kind of where there's been a lot of push, because as you know, East Coast goes dark at 5 or 6, and people are still up and working and awake in California and all those other West and Central states. And so they're very much looking for, if you're on the East Coast, being open to later hours. And if you're on the West Coast, you're in a good position for that. But that's definitely something to look forward to. So just be more lenient on, you know, what you're looking for, especially we're already remote, we're already at home, we already have this kind of like freedom from commuting and all that stuff. So be open to different hours and some other things that they may ask of you, lunch times and all that stuff. So those were some tips on how to get an interview with a remote pharmacy employer, specifically in this case, a managed care employer. If you have any more questions or any more suggestions, go ahead and put it in the comments below. If you have questions, like I said, I see comments. I've been away for 2 years, but I still get my comments and I look at them pretty frequently. I'm on YouTube. So go ahead and do that. And go ahead and take a look at the other videos I have about managed care if you have a question about what type you can get into. My next video will be some tips on interview tips on when you get the interview, how do you, impress the people you're working with and get hired. So stay tuned for that. And thank you. I hope to see you back soon. Bye. Ooh, it's escaping me. There's this big one that a lot of hospitals use.